Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 224. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios. Inside the bunker, North Jersey and South Jersey, the fortress that Nick Villano built. Yes, the crossroads of New Jersey, South Jersey. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. What a ballin' of a podcast we have tonight, because our good friend of the podcast, Arda Ocal of ESPN, will be on. Arda, I can't wait for him to come on for another tour of duty.
Absolutely, yeah. Arda, he's become. Is he not like everyone's favorite hockey voice at ESPN right now? I feel, I'm not going to disparage anybody at ESPN, but he's like the most, does anybody dislike Arda? There's a lot of opinions about a lot of hockey voices on ESPN, but everybody loves Arda. Everybody loves Arda.
Yeah. And I feel like he's one of our own, because he started with the... well, I wouldn't say started with, but, his path to ESPN went through the New Jersey Devils, I would say. I think he would admit that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, partially. He also claims WWE as the start to his career, and so it's, he's a guy who's done a lot, right? And he deserves everything he's getting at ESPN. He's a hard worker. He's somebody, he does every sports center they ask him to do. He's a guy who probably could, do even more if he went to a different station, but he's a loyal guy. He stays to who treats him well, and ESPN has treated him well, and he's treated them well. Like, his job on those intermission shows and dealing with the personalities, and, was he the guy who I know Buccigross does a lot of the PK stuff, but was Arda ever with PK? Or was that always Bucci? PK's a lot. I love him. I love him on that show, but he's like all over the place. He just talks about what he wants to talk about. PK is the best guy on TV, but it takes a real artist to kind of figure out where he's going to go with stuff. And but Arda's done really well with a lot of the intermission stuff, a lot of the updates that he's given. The Point's a fantastic show. I could go on and on. I'm gonna praise him when he's on the show. How about that?
Yeah, I'm going to ask, one of my first questions I'm going to ask Arda was, your first appearance on the Let's Go Devils podcast back in 2018, was that the springboard to your stardom with ESPN?
Oh, yeah, I don't know about all that. Was he at ESPN at that point?
No, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, Nick, remember, you were guest number 1 for season 2. Mm. And number 2...
Was that 2018?
I think that was 2018.
I've been on this show for 5 years.
I think so. You were our guest. You were our guest. See, you were on season 2, episode 1, and I think Arda was season 2, episode 2. And I think Lacey Mark was episode 3 on that season 2. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly it started to spiral or snowball, and then we landed Steve Cangelosi, and then the guests started to get bigger, and somewhere around November of that year, probably episode maybe 11 of season 2 was Doc Emmerich. Mm. And it all started really from you, Nick Villano at pucksandpitchforks.com.
Yeah, we started from the bottom, right?
Yeah, back in those days, we only had 5 people listening to the podcast.
Back in those days, I was getting 70,000 people on pucksandpitchforks.com every month, and that was a good month. I was doing well. 70,000 people. Now, we had a bad month last month, and we did 375,000 views. And that's so it's just kind of funny, looking back at that perspective. And that seemed like a humble brag. I really wasn't trying to do that, but I am proud of where we've taken the site and the podcast, kind of. And I've said this. I said that it was smart for me to join with the podcast, because I don't think that I would have seen the kind of growth. And I the podcast, I'm sure it would have done well, but I do feel like growing together made the most sense for the both of us. And now, and you see that a lot. You see that a lot in sports today, and a lot of people do that. Like, they have to grow their own brands, and they partner up with other brands. And, I'm sure Arda is familiar with that. He sees ESPN do it all the time. And that's, and like Arda, like my man, he did get a little lucky just because he joined ESPN and they didn't have hockey. And while he was at ESPN, they got hockey. And my man knows hockey just about as good as anybody in the game. So, it was luck. There is some luck involved in this business. I think, like, when you look at how many Devils blocks that are out there right now and how many Devils podcasts, I feel blessed to say that we are two of the top in both of those categories. There's like 40 Devils podcasts now. You know what I mean?
Are there
like,
really?
It's ridiculous. But, people choose to come here. We still trust us. They choose to come to pucksandpitchforks.com. People choose to work for me and write for me. And, it's the same thing. People choose to, like, go and seek out, like, the bump and stuff like that with Arda. And, Craig Wyshynski, who's been on the show. And we've had we have had Kristen Shilton on the show. We've had Emily Kaplan on the show. ESPN has a lot of really great hockey minds. And then they have a lot of the ex-players who go on there who have interesting personalities.
Yeah. And now he's sitting in the Andy Green room right now. Our good friend of the podcast, Arda Ocal from ESPN. You can find him on Twitter, or is it X? I'm not sure.
It's Twitter to me.
Okay, at Arda, which is the coolest handle. Arda, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, boys. Nick, Sam, great to be here. Nick, yes, luck is like 95% of my journey, and timing and location, right? Like, it completely is a massive, massive factor. And raising your hand at the right time is like the biggest factor in. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, if I raise my hand and I don't have the credentials, or if I don't impress once my hand is raised, then I'm still going to be out in the dark, right? Like, I just happen to have the right set of skills, the Liam Neeson line, particular set of skills or whatever, at the right time to raise my hand, and preparation met opportunity, met luck. And so I did get very lucky, and I am very lucky, and I'm humbled that, you guys still care about stuff I did with the Devils years and years ago. And, I still get to talk about it. So it's dope. And I'm glad to be here. And you guys are a great blog and podcast, by the way. And you should be proud of yourselves, because it's very difficult to be a team covering, independent team covering entity, especially in the NHL. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, we appreciate that, Arda. And you remember, you've graced us with your presence on this podcast. Sam brought it up in 2018. Funny thing, Arda, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if I ever brought this up to you, but I was the guest before you on your first appearance on this show. And now I do the show, and you're a regular guest. So it's kind of like every time I have you on, I'm reminded of how long I've been doing this, and I start to feel a little bit older, but that's neither here nor there. But I
Well, Nick, one of us got that job, and one of us didn't. So I'm here to apply. So Sam, you're gonna have to make a tough decision here. Okay, it's either me or Nick, and we might have to fight. We might have to fight. It might come to fisticuffs.
You know what? This is the beauty. This is the beauty of being the producer. I can just change to another two shot and just eliminate
looks great.
it. Yeah.
This looks great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did he go? What was his name again? Who is that?
Oh, I don't know.
Welcome
I don't
to the
know.
Sam and Arda show.
Yeah. And you know what? YouTube Live. That's the big surprise. Arda is now the full-time host.
We did it.
That's the major announcement. Move over, Nick Villano. It's just Arda and I in the bunker. Yep.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
But in all seriousness.
It's not the first time I've been fired. It won't be the last time I've been fired.
Me neither, trust me.
Sam, you muted yourself.
He was
Anyway.
laughing off microphone
Yeah,
at
yeah,
our misfortunes in previous year.
the system didn't want the Arda and Sam show. They wanted the Arda and Nick show. But
There it is.
Arda, it's so funny kind of seeing you at ESPN and seeing like how much hockey coverage you get. And like you're on Sports Center, which is like the big show, the show we all grew up with, and then you're on the hockey show. Like, do you have like a favorite show? This is off the board, but I'm curious. Do you have a favorite show that you do? You do like 60 of them.
Hosting game broadcasts is probably my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to do game broadcasts, probably my favorite, the most. I mean, look, like I enjoy whatever they give me, obviously, but yeah. Hosting game because I grew up like Ron McLean was my hero growing up. Like, if you were to ask me who my idols were, like in broadcasting, honestly, it was Ron McLean, Bob Cole. Like I grew up in Canada, so they were obviously Hockey Night in Canada commentators. And then it was like people in pro wrestling, like Mean Gene and Howard Finkel. I thought that those were the coolest jobs. The four of them. And so, like,
and you got to do them all,
obviously
which is awesome.
We had a sports center. Yeah, we had a sports center, obviously, with TSN. So we had our own versions of, Dan and Keith and Dan, and all of the legends, And I get to work with them now, so I hear the stories because I didn't grow up watching ESPN Sports Center. So I get to hear the stories after the fact and go back and watch clips and, kind of relive it for the first time and then vicariously through the people I work with, So that's really cool. Yeah. But yeah, no, growing up, it was all Ron McLean. So like I wanted to be him. And luckily when I host a game broadcast, I feel like I've accomplished, a sense of that, which is very nice.
And I mean, you've been like this past season, like it's like almost like a proud friend moment, seeing like how well you've been doing on those game broadcasts. And we hope to see you do more of them. We hope to see you do a lot of Devils games, and you kind of have.
I'm gonna purposely put one wrong Devils stat in a Devils game just so you can call me out, or I'll mispronounce a name on purpose or something.
Oh, I shouldn't be the one you talk to about names. I said Shakir Mukhamadulin's name 412 different ways because I tried. Yeah. I've gotten advice, and the advice was wrong. So hockey names are not my thing. I will not be calling you out.
Oh, that happens all the time.
It is, yeah. But you do keep a close eye on the Devils just because your past, you worked at MSG. You had a real, like, close connection with them in years past. And now, finally, this looks like this is it. It looks like the hard days are in the rearview mirror, and it's going to be bright spots looking ahead. What was your thinking when you saw this team last season? What were your thoughts on this team, and do you think this is like the start of a budding contender?
So to your point, I was there during we're going to have the first overall pick, and we're still debating at the time between Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick. I still remember those conversations. Like, it was almost not neck and neck, but there was definitely not a consensus number one overall pick, and Devils fans were debating on who to select. And that felt like a reset. It was definitely branded like a reset at that moment, right? It was like, okay, we're going to get a first overall pick, and this is going to be the start of the snowball effect that will bring us back to the promised land, at least the one playoff series against Tampa that we had with the Taylor Hall year and the Hart Trophy, that wasn't a fluke. Maybe we can rally and build behind that and almost reset the woes of the franchise of the last decade since 2012, right? So I remember that very, very vividly. It honestly feels like last year was that, right? Like the true reset or the true 2.0, the true resurgence really felt like it occurred last year, where Devils fans can look at that season. And to me, it's overwhelmingly an overall success. Yes, it ended on a sour note. Sure. I mean, any playoff loss is going to end on a sour note, right? But you have is it the best glow up in points? I know the Kraken did it from year 1 to year 2 in existence, but 49 points. If it's not the biggest points glow up from one season to the next,
I think it's the biggest.
Ever. The biggest glow up, right? Ever, 49 points, and you beat the biggest rival possible in the Rangers, and you do it in Game 7, and you get the emergence of a goaltender that has been in the system, but like not seriously debated until he stands on his head for several games in that series. And so, like, even in a loss in the next round, it's almost like there's a lot to be optimistic about. And I'm going to say this. Look, I'm not just saying this because I'm with you guys and we're friends and I have an affinity for the Devils community because I worked with them. I promise I'm saying this completely objectively, and I've said this to anyone that asks. I believe the Devils are one goaltender away from a Stanley Cup final appearance. I do believe that if Vanacek and Schmidt are going to be the way that the Devils go, if they perform in excellent fashion, I believe this is a team that can get to the Stanley Cup final. If they acquire, let's say, a Connor Hellebuck, a John Gibson, or someone that is a very good goaltender and they play very well for the Devils, I believe that is a Stanley Cup final contending team. And I would not be surprised if this team, if healthy for the season, makes the Stanley Cup final. If that is to happen. That's my only question. My big question with the Devils is how will the goaltending look and how will they perform?
So I got to ask, because I've been completely on the don't get a goalie train. And I have a lot of people tell me I'm wrong just because of the risk involved. The Hellebuck thing is the contract of a 30-plus-year-old goaltender. I did a lot of research on what 30-plus-year-old goaltenders look like, and it's bad. There's only a couple. Only a handful. One, Lundqvist. Miller had a season or two where he had double digits, goals saved above average seasons. I think Bobrovsky just had one a couple of years ago. But anyway, it's not like you'll have goalies in their 20s will have 6 and 7 seasons in a row where they'll have 10 to 30 goals saved above average, and then they hit 31, and then it plummets. So paying a goaltender like that $9 million, I call that the have we learned from the Corey Schneider factor, and I it's way too scary of a proposition with a team that's this good. The fragility of the goaltender position and the fact that how much they have to move side to side today has led to a lot of hip injuries. There's just more hip injuries than there were in the past, and hip injuries can end goalie careers. Again, the Corey Schneider factor, but we've seen it with a lot of. Who's
a terrific dude, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I love Schneider. I hope he gets a night. I hope he's going to I think he's going to retire this offseason, and I hope he gets a night. Because I think the Devils fans, unlike people like Pavel Zacha or some of the other people who got booed when they got honored, I think Corey Schneider would get a big round of applause because, he gave his heart and soul to this team.
He'll come back as an usher with the EY on the name tag, and he'll usher people in this section.
That's fantastic. But yeah, that's my worry. But if you're Tom Fitzgerald, are you going all in? Are you going all in for Hellebuck or Gibson or Swayman's off the table? But like somebody who you think is better than you have now, knowing that you're that close.
I'm definitely more. I wouldn't like. It might be premature to say the window is now. Because usually that is said when there is like semifinal success, right? Like usually when it's like a deep run into the playoffs. But I strongly believe that this is a very, very powerful team. And I think, and we saw it last season, they're a very fast team. They're a very young team. And quite frankly, many NHL teams benefit from strong players on entry-level contracts that probably could be paid 10 times the amount, right? Like Luke Hughes is going to come into the league and he's probably going to look like an $8, $9, $10 million guy right off of the hop, right? And he's going to get paid an ELC, right? So like there are a couple of players like that on the Devils roster that you'll point to and say, wow, this is value right here. And he's performing magnificently. Now, Akira Schmidt could be that too. Maybe he has a fantastic regular season and you look back on it and you say, thank goodness we didn't get a goaltender. But I'm definitely having those conversations. I'm definitely entertaining it if the price is right. And even at the trade deadline, like, I guess, here's the thing. This team, as is right now, is going to make the playoffs, my opinion, right? Yeah, like, this is a playoff team. So if you're at the trade deadline, you're like, well, okay, let's test the goaltenders. Let's see where they are. And you're not happy with their save percentages or you're not happy with their level of compete or whatever it is. By the trade deadline, then you're kind of looking at it and saying, well, maybe now we gamble on a rental because we're in great position. We're first in the Metro and we feel like we could have a pretty decent run. We've been playing very well against strong teams. And so maybe we look at the market then. Do we have to make a move now I'm with you. Maybe not. Like not.
Yeah.
It's not the sense of urgency right now is not as high as it might be at the trade deadline. But that doesn't mean I'm not having those conversations, because I do believe that if the goaltending position is shored up, confident. If the goaltending position is at a level of confidence such that you believe that that's a goalie that can take you to the cup final or give you a good playoff run, that is a dangerous, scary, scary team.
So one thing I think that we're not talking enough about is how much the Devils have lost in the offseason. Any other team loses your second line left-handed defenseman, your longest tenured right-handed defenseman who's really good in Damon Severson, your energy guy in Miles Wood, your second line right wing in Thomas Tatar. They lost Mackenzie Blackwood. They lost. There's a couple other people. They had a lot of losses. When you look at like the entire spreadsheet, is there somebody? Do you think it's going to be a problem? Is there somebody you think they're going to miss the most?
Miles Wood came to mind first. Gritty guy, tough guy, also good locker room guy. I know that a lot of people liked him. Players liked him in the locker room. I know that he was a fierce competitor. I know that there was, challenges, injuries, etc. But I still remember this stat. He had more fights in his first year in the league than his dad did his entire career. Now, Randy Wood was not a fighter, but I just thought it was funny that he just demolished his dad's record several seasons in one season. It was just hilarious. But and Damon Severson led the league in stretch passes too. I know that there's a lot of debate among Devils fans in terms of Damon Severson and in the defensive zone. I understand that. I get that. But he was also he was strong in stretch. I think he led the league in stretch passes, connected stretch passes executed and stretch passes completed. And so, that was one way that the Devils got out of the zone really well. And, Jack Hughes was usually the recipient of that. So I feel like the thing is, though, I'm really excited about the pieces that were added too, right? Tyler Toffoli is going to be amazing. I love him coming into this roster. So there's a lot to be optimistic about personnel-wise.
Yeah, I agree. I'm personally not too worried. I'm actually going to write on Damon Severson tonight just because I do think it's an underrated loss, but you couldn't give him 8 years. You couldn't give him the price that he got in Columbus. So, it's I don't want to call it a moot point, but it's just, you were stuck between a rock and a hard place. And to your point, he used that third-round pick he got from the Severson trade to get to Foley. So kind of a really good use of asset management there from Fitzgerald. One more quick question. Is there another reason why fans should be excited for the upcoming season? Before I do want to get to a fun one, but is there quickly, is there anything fun about this season that maybe we haven't thought about?
No, just what you said, just the idea of the Devils being back and that momentum from last season. They're exciting. They're a fun team to watch. They're fast. They have superstar potential. Jack Hughes is a superstar in the league now, right? We've known that, but now he's destination, right? If the Devils are playing, there's going to be hockey fans in the league that are I want to watch Jack Hughes play. And then he's playing with his brother, they'll be on the ice together. Let's see how they connect. That to me is going to be a lot of fun. So the excitement should be obviously temper your expectations because it's hockey and, anything can happen in the NHL. We've seen it countless times, but if I'm a Devils fan, I'm super excited.
So I kind of want to pivot real quick before we let you go. You're very into the Twitter chatter and kind of the fun stuff that's happening. You're very active on social media. You got a funny account. One of the things that kind of got weird, I guess we could call it, on Twitter this offseason was the rivalry between the Carolina Hurricanes and New Jersey Devils. Obviously, it started with the playoff series. You had Eric Holla wearing a Canes Suck bracelet when he's golfing and takes a picture of it, puts it on social media, and a lot of weird subtleties, but then there's this back and forth. What are your thoughts? Could this be a real rivalry based on just a weird Twitter offseason?
Yes, and I have an idea, and I would like to present this to Devils fans. When you sent that to me, I thought about it. I would just like when you go to a Taylor Swift concert and you trade friendship bracelets, I would love to see Devils fans at a Hurricanes game trade bracelets with their favorite chirps. Some Canes Suck ones, just like the Eric Holla, and then just put other ones maybe Henrique gets over, maybe other chirps from past, including other rivalries, and then just share them around the arena. Maybe NJ the Devil is handing out some too. Like just somehow make this a thing so the team gets involved, and it's like friendship bracelet pandemonium whenever the Hurricanes are in town. And especially the section of Whalers fans that are always at Prudential Center. They come to every local game, right? And present them with a bunch of friendship bracelets in a friendly way to keep the rivalry going. That's my hope. And I would absolutely call that out if I was on the broadcast. 1,000%.
Absolutely. That's the fun thing. That's what I like about the ESPN broadcast is that you're not ignoring the point, or you're not ignoring like the elephant in the room, if it's like a funny thing that's happening in the crowd, whether it's an interesting storyline that we're all talking about. Like, if I'll give you credit, if they're not talking about it, you'll be like, all right, but let's talk about this. And then, you get the conversation going on kind of the funny things that are happening behind the scenes. And, I do got to commend you for that. It makes the broadcast so much more fun. I'm like so impressed by how much better ESPN got over the season, and just like from one year to the next, it just seemed like they really upgraded the level of pregame and intermission show. I know the pregame show is basically the bump, right? Is that like kind of how the pregame show works? They'll put the bump on. Not the bump, the
the
point.
The drop
Sorry.
on digital, yeah, and the point
Okay.
as well on linear, exactly, yeah. So leading into games, the point was either right before the game or very much closer to the game. So yeah, it was that I thought that was a really solid idea, and in year two, there's a lot of more chemistry, right? Like you worked with a lot of all these people in year one, and you have an opportunity to build on that chemistry. So. It's been a blast, man. Like this is a dream gig for me. So I couldn't be more thrilled and ecstatic to be part of the NHL team here at ESPN. It's awesome.
It's a phenomenal broadcast. We love it. Arda, before we let you go, I want you to kind of take a second, just promote what you're doing. I know, are you just doing SportsCenter over the summer? Is there any hockey content coming out? What do you got going on at ESPN?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you, Nick and Sam. This is now the Nick and Arda show, by the way. So Sam, you can feel free to. No, I'm just kidding. And he does it too. Watching you. That's funny. I've done some sports centers. They've been a lot of fun. I will say that ESPN the Ocho is returning, and I would like for the hockey audience here. I promise you, it is worth checking out, even for a few minutes. We did the World Table Hockey Championships. In New York City. It was at the Canuck. Great place, by the way. If you're a hockey fan, make the pilgrimage. It's terrific. It's a Canada-themed bar, but it's really a hockey-themed bar. It's honestly a hockey-themed bar. And so it's in Manhattan. It's awesome. Highly recommend it. But we did the World Table Hockey Championships there, and I thought I was good at table hockey. I really did. I was like, I could beat anybody at ESPN, no problem. And I thought I was like, hot stuff. Then I see them play, and I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, aliens do exist. It is these people playing table hockey right now. Like, I cannot believe how fast they were scoring goals. And I actually tweeted it. I don't even know what it's called anymore. What are we calling them? Zeet? I don't know what tweets are anymore. Posts. I posted a video on X of them. Like, it's a real-time clip of the guy scoring, and then it's a replay at a third of the speed just to show you exactly how he scored. It was like, I can't believe he did this in real time. So I urge you, it's on Thursday at 10 in prime time, by the way, okay? Table hockey in prime time. Check it out for even a few minutes, and you're going to be like, I can't believe, first of all, I can't believe I'm watching this on ESPN, but also I can't believe that this is like the level of table hockey that we grew up loving and playing that we got to. It's ridiculous.
It's funny you bring up the bars because Arda, can I confirm this, Sam, that we're going to be doing the pregame show again this year at American Whiskey, right across the street from Prudential Center?
We signed the 30-year deal. We signed a 30-year deal with the bar.
30-year deal, baby.
Yep.
When you come to the Prudential Center next year, we're personally inviting you. Sam's trying to get the catfish back on the menu just so I actually can I keep telling people they're going to have the catfish, and we'll present them with catfish, and then they took it off the menu. But he's trying to get it back on the menu. You can have the catfish. I will go catch you some catfish. We'll cook you some catfish. Anyway, but yeah, swing by. We're going to have a couple big events there, but anytime you're at a Devils game, we'll be there live. Just come by. We won't even make you come on air. We'll just come have a drink or get a bite to
or
eat.
the big stage. If you like the big stage, the bar American Whiskey actually built us a big stage in the middle of Edison Place.
Oh, there you go. If I'm off and you guys are, and there's a home game that I'm going to, I will definitely stop by.
Yeah, just
be awesome.
Let us know. Just let us know.
For sure.
Drinks are on us.
Yep.
But Arda,
what
I
other
really
reason?
appreciate you coming on.
$3.99 is my favorite price, guys. Okay, $3.99 is my favorite price.
Love having you on, Arda. I'm sure we'll have you on again, and hopefully it'll be a lot of positive Devils talk. It's been a while since we could talk positively about the Devils. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have you on again soon.
You guys are great. Thanks for doing it. Keep doing what you do.
Right,
appreciate the invite, guys.
Thanks,
Arda.
That is Arda Ocal of ESPN, good friend of the podcast. Love him every time he's on. And every time he's on, the podcast gets bigger.
Yeah, it must be it. It must be tied to Arda. Arda is our kindling. Every time he comes on, it lights a flame, and we just get huge. We spread the gospel of the Let's Go Devils podcast and the State of the Fan address. There's a lot of exciting things. I mean, I'm not trying to reveal too much, Sam, but there's a lot of exciting things happening this season. It's going to look like a little bit more large. Like that's, I don't want to take your thunder away, but the things you're telling me about the Let's Go Devils podcast this year, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for the guests that we got lined up already coming up until the season. And I feel like it's just going to lead to bigger and better and better and better. And, and like, honestly, when I look back at some of the guests we have, like, who haven't we had on? Like, the only people we haven't had on are, like, the insiders, right? Because they're always so busy. Like, but every commentator that you could think of, Arda is one of our favorites. We've had a lot of the bigger names in hockey. And, Arda being a regular guest is just, it kind of blows my mind a little bit. He's just, you turn on ESPN and every night he's on TV, so
yeah,
that's...
it's wild because it was kind of like we both, not saying that we're at Arda's level, but it's kind of like we met at the ground floor, back in 2018 where Arda was doing stuff with the Devils. And I actually vaguely remember that interview thinking like, wow, we got somebody aside from Nick Villano,
I was nobody back then. Listen, it's kind of funny because I look back at it. I got my first writing job. Well, it's funny. Someone else started my first blog. And if this person didn't start my blog, I probably never would have done it. I was just I think I was 21, 22, somewhere in that range. And, when you're there, am I going to start my blog or am I going to go get drunk? Probably going to go get drunk. But this person was like, nope, you're a good writer. You should write. If this is what you want to do, then freaking do it. So it was called the Sports Envy blog. Do you want to know why it was called Sports Envy?
Why?
What's my initials?
Wow, clever.
I thought it was creative, and I was like, you know what? This is a good start.
That's your new nickname, the Big Envy.
I used to use envy in everything, just because it worked. It's got a very personal meaning to me because it's my initials, but it works.
Was that
a
good pickup line when you picked up now your wife? Back when you were dating?
She asked me out, so I can't even. I gave her my BBM Remember BBM?
BBM, yep.
I gave her. I'm old, Sam. We're old, man. Like this ain't what it used to be. But I gave her my BBM, and she texted. We were texting, and I guess I was farting around, and she was like, "Are you just gonna like come take me out on a date or what?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was late because I ended up having like I got stuck with I was stuck in Toms River, New Jersey, and I had to go all the way to Philly, and I apologized, but I didn't have time to change, so I went out on the date in board shorts, and we went out to Philly, and now she married me. So I was a hot mess, Sam. I'm still kind of I'm a mess. I'm not a hot mess anymore, but I'm a mess. But we have a kid now, so we're doing great.
I met the little one.
You met the little guy.
Yeah, I went
to
to the
you
fortress.
came down. You saw the house.
Yeah,
you saw the little guy. You saw what our life is now. You saw baby stuff everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not bottles, it's a playpen. If it's not a playpen, it's toys that he can't play with yet. If it's not toys, it's we got the dang dancing veggies on the TV all the time. If it's not that, it's a crib and it's a bassinet and it's a pillow and
wow,
it's a lot of stuff. I don't like stuff, Sam. I'm not a big stuff. I that's the thing. Like I go to garage sales and I buy other people's stuff, but I don't like just having stuff around. Like I'd rather just sell the stuff. But when you have kids, man, it's you got to have all this stuff. It's necessary.
Yeah.
They need a lot of stuff.
Yeah, of course they do.
Should I talk about the Devils? I feel like I haven't talked about the Devils this podcast.
Well, it is August 2nd. We're live right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk a little bit of the Devils. Title of the podcast.
We're writing up a storm.
Oh,
Sam,
yeah.
I went ham last month. I wrote 30 articles last month. I haven't done that in a while. But people like that's the funny thing. I have a lot of people be like, "What's going on?" I don't know what to write about. I was like, I wrote 4 articles yesterday. It's like I have 30 articles in the chamber, and I do. I literally have a list of. It's probably more than that now. It's probably like 60. So I just keep adding to it, and then I'll like make these. I write a lot of lists, so I'll make lists. And then I'm always working on the longer lists. But the issue with the longer list, and I'm going to be candid with everybody. Obviously, I had a kid. I didn't have a kid. My wife had a kid. I was great support system, and that's all I did. But Fansided has tasks me with a lot of these really big articles, like 30-page sliders, and they end up being anywhere between 8,000 and 12,000 words. Sam, take up a lot of my time. So that's specifically why I haven't written the 50 greatest Devils of all time, because it's just I'm doing the heavy lift to prepare everybody. And if you want to read what I'm doing, I mean, it's you'll like these too. So the 2 I'm working on right now that are going to come up probably in the middle of this month. I'm doing 1 player in each team that I think can make the Hall of Fame, which is interesting because like that I could pick a rookie who I think is going to have an amazing career, or I could pick like I have Von Miller on the list because like somebody who I think is definitely going to make it. You know what I mean? So you could kind of like go either way with that, and the Giants one was the hardest one. I'll tell you that, Sam. Picking a Giants player who I think will make the Hall of Fame, it was between like six players, like not Leonard Williams. Who's the other really good? Is it Dexter Lawrence? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yep.
Dexter Lawrence, Saquon Barkley. There's a couple of players that you have to really think about. There's one guy in the offensive line that I considered, but I didn't pick, so he's out of sight, out of mind. There's a couple players, but so that's coming out. 1 player on each NFL team that could make the Hall of Fame, and then it's 1 reason why every team could win the Super Bowl this year. I might adjust it and make it 1 reason why every team could make the Super Bowl this year, because there's always like that one team that like comes out of nowhere and can make the Super Bowl. Like the Bengals did a couple years ago, like that one Rams team did a couple years ago. Like we remember the Cardinals doing it back in, was it 2008? Like there's always like it seems like there's always like these random teams that can make it all the way to the Super Bowl, just go on a crazy run, but can't make it over the top. So, but anyway, that gets hard. Like how are the Arizona Cardinals going to make the Super Bowl? But I'm going to convince you, Sam. I'm going to convince you.
You're like a salesman. I'm convinced that the New York Mets will make the playoffs. I'm convinced that Kevin Ball will be the next Zdeno Chara.
I don't know which one of those is less likely.
I don't know. It's tough.
You know, speaking of baseball, Luke wrote a monster piece about why the Devils are better than the Yankees right now, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's throw that up there, and he makes a compelling point. The roster's better, the front office is better, the coaching is better. Like there's literally nothing the Yankees do better than the Devils. And again, it's August. Maybe it's a reach to some people, but it was fun. I had fun editing it. So it makes, again, a compelling point. A lot of fun to talk about. And it honestly, it ended up, I think, being a sounding board for Luke to get out his frustration on the Yankees because, man, Sam, have you ever been more happy that you don't do a Mets podcast?
Oh, no, this is the time to do a Mets podcast.
Oh,
I mean, after last night's game, I would have just been like, oh.
Well, yeah, and Uncle Steve spoke today, so you'd have a lot to talk about. But
honestly, I do have my take on it. I think what the Mets did is very shrewd. I think we're all being punked right now. For them to get all those players back, basically you're buying prospects by sending Scherzer and Verlander over. That just frees up money for Ohtani. It really does. And on top of that, you've got now a very deep prospect pool into your farm system.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely reminded me of when the Yankees did that. What was it, like 2009 or whatever?
Yeah.
No, later than that. Whenever they did it and they got Torres and the redheaded outfielder, his name is escaping me now.
Oh, Frazier.
Frazier.
Yeah.
They got all these great prospects for Chapman and Andrew Miller. So, the Mets made the right moves.
I think this is what they did. I think they pump faked Scherzer and Verlander, saying that nope.
Oh, they lied. They lied.
They totally lied because they got him off the books. They got him off the books. They got him mad, right? That's why I think Robertson went first because everyone's like, why did you trade him too early? It was because it's to get Mad Max mad. Then he goes off because Cohen and Epler said 2025, 2026. And like, okay, I'm out of here. And then Verlander, same thing. And it's like, okay, we'll pretend like we're not going after free agents. But the two free agents are going to go after is the Milwaukee Brewers. I forgot his name for the front office job, the president of the team, because Cohen's been waiting on him. Forgot his name. And they're going to go after Ohtani. So that's just going to be their off season. And then 2025, 26, that's how they're going to make their move. They totally lied. It's great.
I mean, it would be funny if they flipped the prospects they got for Verlander and Scherzer and got Ohtani. That would be funny. Like, even as the Yankees fan, that would be funny. If the Mets got Ohtani and the Yankees didn't, then you gotta reset the franchise in pinstripes. Like, you gotta. Like, I'm not usually like a guy like rooting against the Mets to get somebody or to be, you know what I mean? Like, losing to the Mets, it's not like losing to the Red Sox to me. But if you're both going after the biggest star in baseball, by far the biggest name, and you lose as the Yankees, with who has quite a good prospect pool, and they have everything that the Angels might want. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
how have the Angels never made the playoffs with Ohtani and Trout?
and that's a
how?
that's a problem. And also that the New York Mets was last season, the first half of last season. DeGrom was hurt, and Max Scherzer didn't exactly pitch very well, but they had a great first half. With the team they really kind of have now, just they don't have they don't have a bullpen right now.
Yeah, I think the Mets are fine. I think it's one just downtrodden destroyer of world season. Like everything had to go wrong for this to go, but I do think that keeping Buck Showalter is probably a mistake, just because he's the guy that and I say this with Boone. Like everybody who defends Boone, Boone's the guy who's supposed to get you out of this mess, and so is Showalter. So I don't know how we ended up going to this tangent about baseball. Oh, there's a baseball article on Pucks and Pitchforks, so I guess that's just what we are now.
Well, yeah, and right now, with the Mets' problems and with the Yankees' problems, the Devils don't have those problems anymore. They really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, on paper right now, they're looking fantastic. You've got a GM that, is playing the salary cap game. He knows what he's doing. He's going to maximize those entry-level contracts with Luke Hughes, possibly Nemitz, and Akira Schmid. So, things are looking good for New Jersey. Kevin Ball, 2-year deal, very, very friendly AAV. You get Big Ball back there on defense, and he can make big strides to get a decent contract next go around.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think that was the biggest mistake that Ray Shero made. Is in these situations he paid for future production. He did it with Will Butcher. He did it with Pavel Zacha. He did it with. There's another guy that's sticking out that I can't remember, where he paid he did it with Miles Wood. He did it with there's one other guy that I can't remember.
John Hines. You stuck with him for a while.
But he paid his young guys, right? He paid Zacha 2.25 or something like that. He paid Wood 2.75 or something like that. He paid, the Will Butcher contract was an albatross, because he thought he was going to grow into something even better than he was, and they all regressed in some way or shape or form. And Zacha had that one really good season. I think it was the completely pandemic shortened one. So it was the 2021 season, right? And he was really good that year, led the team in points. But outside of that one season, he was not very good. Butcher had to, you had to add a pick to get him traded. So it's Fitzgerald's not doing that, and I think that's what players are looking for. He paid McLeod more than I thought he would, and McLeod. A lot of people thought McLeod was going to get a big raise because of how he played in the playoffs. We went into depth of why that's probably not going to happen.
Well, I think the contract was shortened from a 2-year to because Tommy Fitzgerald loves the 2-year outs, is what I call him.
Yeah, he's doing that with Bastion. He probably overpaid Bastion a little bit, but when you're overpaying somebody by $400,000, it's semantics. If you pay everyone by $400,000, then it becomes a problem. But when you underpaid Jack Hughes and you underpaid Nico Hischier and you underpaid Jesper Bratt, and you probably rightfully paid Timo Meyer, and you got Luke Hughes on an ELC and Simone Nemitz on an ELC, like you made that point. You got Akira Schmid on an ELC for another year. You can afford to lose $400,000 on Nathan Bastion. You can afford to lose, a little extra money on, pay Timo Meyer probably. He probably overpaid him by $400,000 a year. You can afford to do that because you're making up for it everywhere else. And, I think he's making a lot of the right moves. I think I'm going to write an article trying to find Tom Fitzgerald's worst move. Wow. And I'm gonna remove the draft because I think if you take everything in just kind of like everything that he's done so far, I think the worst move he's made was take Chase Stillman. But it's too early to do that to him. Chase Stillman's still a player. I think he's going to the AHL this year, right? He's going to Utica.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how he does there. I don't want to it's just too early to do that. But just where he was at the time and the players that were available, I still think it's his worst situation. But I won't even bring that up. I'm looking at the trades because there's a couple trades that look bad at the time. It looks straight up silly that he bought at the one deadline, trading a third-round pick for Jonas Siegenthaler, a player who we forget, Sam. Jonas Siegenthaler was not playing. He was benched in Washington. They couldn't find a place for him in the lineup. Now look at him. Insane.
And Caps fans were actually pissed when that actually happened.
Yeah.
Reading the...
It was a mismanaged roster. Was that Laviolette or was that before him? I can't remember.
Was it Trotz?
No. There was a guy between Trotz and Laviolette. It didn't last long. But anyway, yeah, so but I'm going to go through them. I'm going to go through every trade and every free agent signing. I'm going to find his worst move. And we'll go through that. That'll be something that I write this week, and that'll be fun. I guess I'm doing the plug, Sam. I guess that's where we are.
Okay.
I'm going to write the piece on David Severson, just kind of see, are the Devils really going to miss him? Are the Devils really going to is that like the one regret? I don't think so, because they got Colin Miller, and Colin Miller's sneaky good. Like, I've been doing research on Colin Miller, and I'm going to do a Colin Miller piece. It's just not going to happen this week. It's going to happen probably end of the month. But Colin Miller is sneaky good. And that was just a shrewd move. He's making no money. He's a right-handed defenseman. He's played for a contender. Like, I don't understand, Sam. I don't understand how this keeps happening. But and then you got Nemitz waiting in the wings. So, but again, I'm going to write about it. I'm going to, I always do some of my therapy and my work.
I already know the moves. The worst moves of Tom Fitzgerald. Can I say it, or am I going to spoil it?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Corey Crawford and Jonathan Bernier.
Bernier, I'm not going to blame him for Bernier. That wasn't his fault. Do you know what it might be?
What's that?
I'm going to play around with it. Putting Wedgwood on waivers.
Yeah,
that's
that's his Achilles heel. Tom Fitzgerald, goalies.
I mean, he hit the nail on the head with VTech.
Yeah,
but you got to see, is this playoff thing for real, or is it just a bad streak, or was he tired? You got to see.
All right.
But yeah, so that's coming up on pucksandpitchforks.com, and go on fansided.com. Look for me. Search for Nick Villano. I had one that just went up. What was it about? Oh man, it's every NFL player's biggest cap hit this season. Sam, did you know that there are only 8 quarterbacks with the team's highest cap hit this season in the NFL? Does that surprise you?
Really?
8. We talk about how the quarterbacks are making crazy amounts of money. Like players like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson doesn't have his team's highest cap hit. The cap hits are fake. The NFL is fake. It's all fake. Because, Sam, like, I can't tell you how many of these quarterbacks have a $76 million cap hit coming. $76 million coming. They're not. There's no way that that's going to happen. They're going to restructure that. So it's these contracts, when they come out, be like, it's a record-setting cut. No, it's not. The only guy who's actually making that money is Patrick Mahomes, who's legitimately getting like $40 million a year. But all these other players and these agents that are putting out these headlines, fakeness. This is untruths.
I'm sure.
But yeah, that's on fansided.com. So a little bit of a different plug today. But you do your plug, Sam.
Very nice. Dropping the podcast in about an hour on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Scotty's coming over to Jersey next week. Gonna see Scotty, a Sirius XM Liquid Metal. Probably gonna have to go out for lunch or dinner, Nick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But all right, everybody.
Oh yeah, we got to discuss podcasts next week, but we'll figure that out next week.
Yep.
We'll figure that out later.
Next week. Yep. Follow us on our social media pages. Also, thank you to all the listeners, and thank you to Arda Ocal, good friend of the podcast, coming on. Never forgetting the little people that he used to hang out with for a podcast. So, very nice. Because, as you know, Nick, sometimes when people get big in this industry, they kind of forget you. I can name a few. Anyway. Alrighty.
They all still like me.
Yeah. All right.
Just kidding.
See you later. Until next time, let's go Devils.